Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on whichever part of the world you are tuning in from. I'm very excited to welcome you to yet another promising edition of the Forex Morning Mastery with Sheriff Daramola. We are going to be today's a special day actually, as the market is buzzing with anticipation as major currency pairs have settled into familiar territories following Thursday's coaster ride, roller coasters of buys and sells within a range. And in fact, the US dollar is consolidating and bracing itself for the impact of today's NFP data. And in this regard, we begin to see some significant transition in price action, which we are going to be looking at this morning. And in fact, in preparation for today's trading session, I have conducted a comprehensive analysis on all of the assets on our watch list this week, which includes the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot, the USOILSPOT, and of course the GBPUSD. And in fact, if you are with me on both my TradingView and Telegram platform, you will definitely have gotten an update into how we are going to be positioning ourselves ahead of today's NFP data and of course the trading sessions today. If you are joining us for the first time, you are highly welcome on board, and I'm very glad to have you around with us this morning. And if you are asking what is it that you're doing here, well, as technical traders, we come here in anticipation of both the London and the New York session, where we come to review our existing position if we have any, and at the same time use the information we gather on the chart to strategically position ourselves ahead of both the London and the New York session. And of course, this happens on a daily basis. Technically, the time starts 8:05 a.m. UTC and 9:05 a.m. West African time. And I encourage you to stay tuned in so you don't miss out on these insightful ideas we shall be deliberating on today, especially on a day as the NFP data, which everyone in the market is looking forward to, has for clues into the strength of the US labor sector, which of course has a tendency of influencing the Fed's rate decision coming up much more later in the month. And I encourage you to be part of my subsequent editions, as the more time you spend with us, the better you get in understanding how this works and eventually be able to use the information you gather here to make your own independent trading decisions. So once again, I welcome you all on board. Now, with that being said here, let's dive right into the business. And as usual, the first thing we normally do in this community is to keep tabs with the fundamental aspect of the market by checking on the economic calendar. And for those who have been with me for a while now, you know how important the economic calendar is, as these fundamental factors we see on this calendar often manifest on the charts in technical patterns and price movements. By monitoring the economic calendar, we can identify potential correlations between key economic releases and specific technical patterns on the chart, hereby giving us valuable information and timing so that we can strategically position ourselves ahead of this move prior, during, and even after this event. So on the economic calendar and considering the assets on our watch list for this week, we have been focusing on both the United States and the United Kingdom economic dockets. And what we look at are high impact events from these economies, and I would like to streamline our scope into, let's include the medium impact event for the sake of further insight into the fundamental aspect of the market. Now let's look at this for today, Friday, October 6th. We have a handful of events coming up from the United States today, but our center of focus will basically be on the average hourly earnings, which is coming up in about 4 hours 30 minutes from now. And for those who don't know what the average hourly earning is, this is an index released by the US labor statistics, and it is a significant indicator of labor cost inflation and of the tightness of the labor market. The Federal Reserve Board pays close attention to when setting interest rates, of course, on this event, and a higher reading is considered as positive for the US dollar. Now, if we look at the previous data for the month of August, it came in at 0.2%, and there are consensus projecting 0.3%, which is a sign that there is some positivity in the air as regards to this data we are looking forward to. Then simultaneously, we are also going to be anticipating the almighty non-farm payroll, which everyone in the market is, of course, looking forward to. And if you don't know what this is an index released by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it represents the number of new jobs created during the previous month in all non-agricultural businesses. Now, the number is also subjected to strong reviews in the upcoming month, but one thing here is that if this figure comes in high, then there is a tendency that it will affect the US dollar positively, as it gives us a sign that there is an expansion in the labor sector in the United States. And of course, when this happens, the chances that the Fed will be increasing interest rate this month hereby increases. And of course, when the chances of interest rate increase comes in, investors will want to invest on the US dollar so that they can capitalize on the profit yield on the variance in whatever asset they are exchanging the US dollar for. So and for the previous month here, we have 187,000 for the NFP data for the month of August. Now consensus are projecting a decline of about 170,000. So it's a growth anyways, but is expected not to be as that of last month. So we are going to be looking forward to what the actual data is going to be. Will it be as expected? Will it be below expectation, or even beyond expectations? Now, with the information we have gathered here, with the timing we have gathered here, what we are going to be doing as technical traders right now is to sniff through the current market structure to look out for patterns and structures that we are going to be using to position ourselves ahead of this event. And of course, we know that prior to this event, like 30-40 minutes into the event, major key players who are in contact with those who are going to be publishing this data will have had an insight into what the data is going to be like, and hereby start positioning themselves in the market ahead of this event. And as technical traders, what we are looking out for is their trails so that we can also be part of that move when it finally happens. So with this information we've gathered here, we shall be diving right into the chart to look at things from a technical standpoint. And the first asset we are going to be looking at this morning is going to be the USOILSPOT. Now, on the USOILSPOT, we've been doing pretty well since the beginning of this week, as we have over 1,000 pips in profit, as we have about 3 positions running in profit at this point in time. And for those who are taking advantage of this opportunity since the beginning of the week, well done, and kudos to you for being on standby to capitalize on this move. Now, for the sake of better understanding and educational purposes, let's run through how the week started, and this will give us a background knowledge of where we are coming from, and at the same time it gives us a clue of where price is likely going for today. Now let's look at what happened at the beginning of this week. Now at the beginning of the week, we had a very simple setup. As you will see right here, price was initially oscillating just right around our key level, which we identified on Monday. For those who had not watched my video on the USOILSPOT on Monday, you can watch the Forex Morning Mastery for Monday session. It is right on my channel there, so you can have a background knowledge of how we were able to identify that key level at the $90 mark. Now, we saw how price was initially confined within a range that was between the $90.40 level and the $89.80 area to emphasize the level of indecision at that particular point in time. And of course, you know how we do it. Whenever we have an uncertainty in the market where price transitions into a flat channel like this, we exercise patience waiting for a signal to come, either in the form of the breakout of the resistance line for buying opportunities or the breakdown of the support line for selling opportunities. Now, if you look at the structure closely at the beginning of the week, in fact, during our live session on Monday, we had a buy position running as we saw price broke out of that resistance line, and in fact price moved about 50 pips in our favor before we were taken out of that position with a worst case scenario break even there, and price went on to nosedive to the downside, breaking down both the support line and that ascending trend line we identified on the higher time frame to signal our first sell position for the week. And remember that we also had the privilege of adding more positions to our existing trade, though we were able to add more very late in the week, and we had one around the $87 area. Then we also added another one, I think, was it not yesterday? Yes, yesterday morning we also added another one at the $83.10 level, and we were of the hopes that price will continue to the downside. I think I made an update on my public platforms. For those who are with me on the Telegram platform, you definitely will have gotten this update. As I said, we're looking forward to more opportunities at the breakdown of the $81.40 level. Now, congrats to everyone who has been part of this profitable journey. And right now, you know how we do it. The next thing we want to be doing right now is to move all stop losses, secure this current sell position while we continue to look out for more opportunities in the market. Now, if we look at the current structure here, this is where our center of focus is going to be. And considering what is going on right now, I will be suggesting that anywhere around that $83.10 level, that is the previous entry zone, seems most appropriate to secure all sell positions. So move your stop loss to this zone here, and remember that we do want to be giving enough room for price action to breathe. Now, with our well secured position at this juncture, what is going to be our next line of action for today? Now, I have a little bit of tweak into the current structure here as we continue to see buy pressure resume around the $81.40 level since the early hours of yesterday. And this is for me a concern here, as we can see that sellers are finding it difficult to break through that level. Now, if we look at this, I want to ensure that all the pivot lows here are well touched, and I would like to revisit this by using my line chart to confirm that we are having the support line at the right spot. So looking at this closely, I think the $81.30 level seems most appropriate to place our stop loss on. So I will readjust this. So I will relabel this to $81.30, and I advise you to also do the same too on your chart, as below the $81.30 level is now an area we are going to be looking out for selling opportunities. But if you are sold below the $81.40 level, because personally I already have a sell position below that area, it's quite fine. We're still within that territory, but just make sure you have your stop losses in place. Anywhere around that $82.35 level seems most appropriate. It appears we are going to be having a wider stop loss in this case scenario because of this indecision that has been going on here in the last 24 hours. So let's have our stop loss as wide as possible, about 100 pips in this case scenario, and let's see how the market will play out going forward. So in this market right now, we still hold on to a bearish bias, as we hope that price will be breaking down that $81.30 level. However, in as much as we are looking out for selling opportunities here, remember that we cannot ignore the potentials of buyers. And anytime, and considering the fact that today is the last trading day of the week, that's one thing I didn't mention earlier. Days like these are always known to be profit-taking activity days, as those who had bought an asset or sold at a particular point in time, making some profits along a within a proud leading price action. That is, if you're selling off throughout the course of the week, during the end of the week, there are tendencies that traders will start rounding off on their position, closing their positions ahead of the weekend, and this of course reflects on the chart as price action doing the opposite of the proud leading price action. And because of these expectations, we shouldn't ignore the potentials that buyers can come into this market anytime. And if that is going to be the case, what are we going to be looking out for on this chart to make us feel comfortable joining a bullish momentum? Now, if we look at what has been going on here in the last 24 hours, you will see that price action had consistently found lower highs here. Now, if we bring out our line chart to connect the series of lower highs, we should be having something like this. Hold on a second. I don't like this extension of the trend line, so I will remove it. So you will see here we have lower highs. Now, if we bring back our candle chart, we can do some little tweak to ensure that the line touches all the pivot highs here. And then I think I should thicken this a little bit so that we can see things clearly. So I will give it a 2 pixel. Okay. So we have this trend line here. Now, this trend line here is going to be playing a major role in guiding our trading activities for today. So what do I mean by this? As long as price action remains below this descending trend line, we shall feel comfortable in our sell positions, and we also look out for more selling opportunities below the $81.30 level. But if at any point in time today price breaks out of this descending trend line, then we want to be considering buying opportunities here. Now, to give a visual representation of what I'm talking about, if the buy pressure here around the $81.30 level persists, that is, sellers continue to find it difficult to break through, then this might likely lead to the breach of this trend line. And if this happens, then we are likely seeing a reversal set up on our table. Now, remember, we are not getting too excited here. We are not jumping in right away, as we will need some confirmations to happen before we go into this buy position. And what we are going to be looking out for is signs that sellers are finding it difficult to drop below both the descending trend line and the $81.30 level, and this would reflect on the chart as continued buy pressure around or above the structure, after which we want to be part of an uptrend move. And if this happens, we join the move, then we have some levels here too that we can use to maximize the potential of that bullish move. Now, if price continues to climb up, there is a caveat about the structure which I would like to emphasize here, and we should also put into consideration while we are managing our buy position if price breaks out that descending trend line. Now, remember that at the beginning of the week, we had this beautiful descending trend line marked out, which of course has been supporting that bearish momentum since last week, Wednesday. Now, if I highlight that appropriately, this is what we have here after connecting the series of lower highs. Now, you'll see this trend line here has been a major determinant of selling pressure since last week. And if price goes on to get into the structure, let's ensure that we move all our stop losses, secure the current position anywhere around the $83.80 level and the $83.10 area. So once price tests that trend line, move all stop losses into that zone. The more the room, the better it is. At least it will give enough room for price action to play around with the hopes that it will break out of that structure. Now, depending on how price reacts to that trend line here will determine what our next line of action will be. Now, if it so happens that we continue to see selling pressure around that trend line, then we will be in for a bearish move. However, if price breaks out of the trend line, retest of structure will confirm the strength of the buyers, and this will welcome more buy positions in this particular market. So this is how we are going to be managing our positions on the USOILSPOT today. So let's mark these levels out on our chart. Well, personally, if you ask me, from my own instinct, I'm still looking forward to selling opportunities that is below the $81.30 level to capitalize on more opportunities. But if it so happens that price breaks out of that descending trend line, that is this one here, then we will be looking out for buying opportunities. So let's keep this in mind, but trust me, I will be with you in the comment section of both my TradingView and Telegram platform to give you updates on what my expectations are. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions, and you can as well use that time to mark out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions. All right, so in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page, and I do hope you've marked out these levels on your chart. Then in that regard, we shall be moving right into the next financial assets on our watch list. So the next asset on our watch list for today is the GBPUSD, and in fact the GBPUSD has been doing pretty well in the last 48 hours. In fact, last 24 hours has been doing very well too as well. And things, the pound sterling appears to be recovering at this point in time, taking advantage of the retracement in the US dollar and following a little bit deep into the economic data we witnessed on Wednesday on the US, from the US economic docket, and I think the pound sterling is taking advantage of that opportunity. Now let's look at things from a technical standpoint, and what is it that we saw on this chart yesterday that led into the situation we had here. Now at the beginning of this week, we are more of selling the GBPUSD. Remember, we saw this range here. Let's hold on and see what we did at the beginning of the week. We had this range here as we saw price confined within the 1.22080 level and the 1.21760. Now with this range here, you know how we do it. Of course, we wait for the breakout or breakdown of the range to give us an opportunity to trade, and we saw the breakdown of that support line happen here on Monday, which triggered our first sell position, and we went on to capitalize on this bearish move by adding more sell positions at the breakdown of the 1.212 and the 1.2100 area. Now after this move, we saw that on Tuesday, Wednesday, and on Tuesday and Wednesday, we saw price consolidate, falling into this range here between the 1.21 and the 1.2060 level, and this further emphasized the level of indecision at that particular point in time. And one of the things we emphasized here on Wednesday's trading session was that the inability, despite the strong bearish momentum we saw at the beginning of the week, the inability of sellers to break through the structure after multiple attempts, which of course lasted about 24 to 36 hours, was a sign that they are unable to break down that structure, and that buyers are very strong around that area. And with this observation in mind, on Wednesday, we decided that we are going to be looking forward to both the breakout of the descending trend line. Remember, we had a descending trend line at the beginning of the week, which we were using to guide our selling opportunities since the beginning of the week. And one thing we said here is if price breaks out both the descending trend lines and the resistant line here at the 1.21, we will have no other choice than to join a bullish move. And this was exactly what happened on Wednesday. Price did break out the structure, and since that moment we have been buying the GBPUSD. Though yesterday we were taken out of our buy position yesterday. Remember, we moved our stop losses accordingly, and price did came back down during some retest of structure to take us out of that position. And one of the things we talked about yesterday is that we shall continue to maintain our scope around the 1.218 and the 1.21350, where the breakout of this trend line, which we identified on the higher time frame as the resistant line of the descending channel. For those who don't know, I will encourage you to watch my GBPUSD video where I went on to give a detailed analysis on that descending channel. So we had the resistance line around that area, and I made mention here yesterday that if price does break out and retest the structure, we shall be buying the GBPUSD, and it's exactly what happened here. We saw price break out the trend line, then we also had this level here at the 1.218 area for another opportunity to capitalize on that move. And in fact, if you had missed out on that first attempt by the buyers to break out of the structure, then you see the market was kind enough, came back, did a retest, and boom, we had this engulfing bullish candle to make a statement that the pound sterling might likely close this week on a positive note. Now, in this regard, for those who took advantage of this opportunity, well done to you for being on standby to capitalize on this move. And I will be advising you right now so that we don't lose what we've made so far on this move. Let's bring all stop losses to a particular level to secure this current position, and I would advise that the second entry here around the 1.218 seems most appropriate to move all stop losses to. Now remember that it is very important that we give enough room for price action to break. Today is the NFP data. Today is the average hourly earnings coming in from the United States economic docket, and it has a tendency of inciting some volatility today, and we are likely going to see some sharp movement, choppy situation in this market prior to the and during the NFP data. So let's have enough room here to allow price action to breathe. Now, with a well-secured position here, I'm of the opinion that price will continue to climb to the upside. Now, to buttress this, you will see that in the last 3 days, 2 or 3 days now, price had consistently found higher lows, and in that regard, we do want to be connecting the higher lows, as this is a good sign that price is gaining bullish momentum here. Now, to connect the series of higher lows, I have something like this. So we are going to be using this to guide our trading decisions for today. So I think I have a couple of trend lines here. So the first one is this one, while the second one is this one right here. So I will just lessen the thickness of this one, and then we have something like this. Let me do some little adjustments so that we can capture all pivot lows here. So we have an ascending trend line to work with here. Now, what this simply means at this juncture is that as long as price remains above this ascending trend line, we will feel very comfortable buying the GBPUSD, and of course look out for more opportunities here. So even if price drops and break down the 1.218, we still have a bust up around this area to look out for buy pressure to join that uptrend move. So what this simply means is that as long as price remains above this ascending trend line, we feel very comfortable in our buy position. So you do want to be marking out this level, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your decisions for today. Now there's another structure here that we would like to take advantage of. If you look at the structure closely, we have the 1.22050 area, which happens to be the highest point price action has been for this week. So we want to be marking out this level too, as we saw selling pressure resume around that area a couple of hours ago. So we mark this level 1.22050 level. Now if price goes on to break out of this level, then I will be added more buy position to my existing trade here. Now there are two ways to which we can capitalize on this move. For those who are with me for a while now, are very familiar with this strategy, but for those who are new with us, let me quickly run through this here. Now for those who have been profitable with this asset so far this week, that is for those who have been part of this profitable journey, you sold when we sold, you bought when we bought here, then I will be advising you you can afford to leverage on the profits you had made so far this week by risking and testing waters around the 1.22050, placing a buy stop order above the structure right now. So if you have been profitable, so all you just know is if it doesn't work, then we know that we are only risking some of the profit we had made so far this week, and it's not really affecting our real portfolio, the amount in our own portfolio. However, if you are new with us and this is your first position, that is you are coming in from a clean slate, then I will advise you to exercise patience here. Wait for confirmations before you jump into any position, as you do not have anything to leverage on at this particular point in time. So what you will be doing here is to wait for the breakout happen, scale down into the 5, 10 or 15 minutes time frame to look out for confirmations like a retest of structure, where continued buy pressure around this area will now give us that confirmation that price is likely going to the upside. So that is how we are going to be capitalizing on any potential move at this particular juncture in this market. So these are my views here on the GBPUSD. I still hold on to a bullish bias here unless the structure states otherwise, and the only condition that will make us want to start considering selling is for price to break down that ascending trend line we spotted here. So to give a visual representation of what I'm talking about, I would like to see price slice through that ascending trend line, retest of structure, maybe the 1.218 or that area, before I can stand considering selling. But if price still remains above that ascending trend line, then we shall remain very bullish in this particular market. But I will of course be with you in the comment section of both my TradingView and Telegram platforms to give you updates if any significant setup comes up along the line. So these are my views here on the GBPUSD. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds as always to see if there are any questions, while you can also use that time to mark out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions. So I look forward to your inquiries or comments, and take that time to mark out these levels while I take some a sip of water here. All right, all right. So, in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page. So, in that regard, I will be moving on to the last asset on our watch list for this week. So the last asset on our watch list for this week and for today, of course, is my favorite, and that is the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot. Well, unfortunately, on the XAUUSD yesterday, our buy position hit stop loss, and we had a stop loss of about 50 pips stop loss on this one, taking us out of that buy position after about 48 hours in that position. Actually, as you'll see, that price action is currently in a limbo right now. The trading activity is currently in a limbo right now. As you will see, price has been confined within the 1,829 level and the 1,817 zone since the beginning of this week. Though we had some sell positions at the beginning of the week, but as soon as price got into this range, we saw the tussle between the buyers and sellers, and it appears the sellers are winning at some point in time. Buyers took over back again, and in fact, at this point in time, it is very advisable that we exercise patience here and wait for significant setup to come in before making any trading decisions at this point in time. Now, one of the things I think is going on right now is that the key players in the market have probably stepped aside from this market, hereby taking out the volatility, taking out the liquidity in the market, and as a result of this, I'm of the opinion that they are waiting for cues into the US economy on what the labor sector is saying. And of course, you know, the Federal Reserve too are also looking forward to this data, as it will be determining if they are going to be raising interest rates or not. And if the data comes in higher, then the chances that the interest rates will be increased will step in, and if that happens, the chances that the US dollar will rise now increases. Now, if we look at the structure from a technical standpoint, you will see how the $1,817 area had become a difficult zone for the sellers. Now, despite the strong bearish momentum we have been enjoying in this market since the beginning of last week's trading session, you will see how sellers have struggled as soon as price got into that 1,817.50, 1,814 area since the beginning of this week. And this for me is a concern, as we might likely be seeing this area as an accumulation zone that will incite a bullish pressure. Now, what happened yesterday was quite interesting. We saw price took us out of our sell buy position in a loss, and as a result of that, price did break down that $1,817.50 level multiple times. But if we look at the nature of these candles after the breakout of the 1,817 and considering the wicks of this candle, you will see that sellers are finding it difficult to settle below the $1,817.50 area, and for me this is a concern. So if I am going to even consider selling, well, I would need significant confirmations to happen. Now, from a technical standpoint, whatever we do, you know how we do it in this community, when price falls within this kind of range like this, confined within a flat channel, which further emphasize the level of uncertainty in the market, we need to exercise patience, waiting for the signal to come, either in the form of the breakdown retest of the support line for selling opportunities, or the breakout retest of the resistance line for buying opportunities. Now, how do we intend selling this one? Now, if you look at the structure here, you will see that if we compare the activities of buyers around the resistance line and the activities of sellers around the support line here, you will see that sellers are actually winning. At no point in time did we see buyers break out of that resistance line comfortably. At no point did we see that happen this week. We saw some We saw some, it was a sharp rejection, as you will see here. We saw some here, sharp rejection. Look at the nature of the wick of those candles. Then we saw another one here. It was a sharp rejection too as well. But if we compare the activities of the buyers here with the activities of the sellers around the support line here, though it was initially sharp rejection, sharp rejection, sharp rejection, but yesterday we saw them break down significantly well, but they were unable to settle below that structure, which increases the chances that sellers might take over this market today. And because of this idea, I want to be leaning towards bearish momentum. And in addition to this, to further buttress the tendency that sellers will come in here, is the fact that price has been very bearish since the beginning of last week. Very strong bearish momentum, remember. So I'm of the opinion that sellers will likely come in, and if that is going to be the case, I want to be looking out for structures below. Please notice what I'm saying right here. I want to be looking out for structures and patterns below the $1,817.50 level to give me an opportunity to sell. So if I don't see that, I wouldn't be selling, and I just hope that I wouldn't miss that opportunity, because we might likely see a sharp engulfing bearish candle break through that area and never come back to retest that level anymore and continue to nosedive to the downside. It's a possibility. Now, this now comes the profit you had made on the XAUUSD in the past now comes into play. Now, can you afford to leverage some of the profit you have made so far on the XAUUSD to risk that area? That is a question. That's a personal preference there. So if you can afford that, then you can have your sell stop order below the $1,817.50 level. However, if you are new on the XAUUSD and this is your first time taking a position with us on the XAUUSD, I would suggest that you wait for the retest of structure confirmations patterns before joining that bearish momentum today. So that is what I'll be looking out for today. I'm leaning towards the sell position here, but of course, you know how the market does. It's a dynamic environment, so we also want to be as fluid as possible. Now we want to take into consideration the potentials of the buyers too. Now, if we are going to consider buying here, remember we said we had a range, and of course, when we have a range, we need price to break out of the resistant line at the 1,829 before we consider buying this asset. So I want to see price break out retest of that structure before I can start considering buying. However, we can still be part of a bullish move even before the breakout of the resistant line happens. And the only thing we want to see on this chart that will make us join a buy opportunity even before the breakout of the resistant line happens is when we sight higher highs and higher lows within the range. Now let's look at what has been going on here since the later part of the New York session. We saw this move, price comes here, this is a higher low here. Then if price finds it difficult to break this low and we see a higher low within this range, then this could be a sign that price will continue to the upside. And if we see a retracement back into somewhere around the 1,825 whereby pressure resumes, then we could actually join the bullish move, then have a buy stop order above the 1,829 level to capitalize and maximize the potential of that bullish move. But don't worry, I will be with you in the comment section of both my TradingView and Telegram platforms to give you updates on what we are going to be doing when significant setup gradually evolve within this flat range. And of course, remember we have the XAUUSD live window, which is coming up a couple of minutes into the New York session today. And of course, you don't want to miss out on that session as we gear up for the NFP data coming up much more later today. Now, for those who don't know, I already dropped the link to the XAUUSD live window right in the comment section of this current video you are watching right now. So you want to click on that link, click on the notify me button so you can get notified as soon as I come on live. Now, for those who don't know what the XAUUSD live window is, this platform was born out of popular demand from our trading community here, and it was born about 2 months ago, where we gathered daily to monitor live trading activities on the gold spot together, especially during the New York session. So our live session kicks off just a few minutes into the New York session trading hours, allowing us to dive into real-time trades and market analysis of the XAUUSD. So I encourage you to be part of that session. Your active participation is what makes this experience truly enriching. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the comment section during that live session as we continue to monitor price action on the XAUUSD. So at this point in time on the XAUUSD, we do not have any position running, as we'll continue to exercise patience, waiting for a beautiful signal that will make us open a position on this pair. So I look forward to seeing you guys in that session. I see your comments. Hero, good morning, Hero. How are you doing today? Glad to have you around with us this morning. So with that being said here, I don't know if you have any questions as regards my explanations or illustrations on the XAUUSD or any of the assets we've talked about so far today. If you do have any, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions whatsoever before I round off for today. And you can as well use that time to mark out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today's trading session. All right. So in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page. It has been a wonderful day, wonderful moment. We were able to attend to three major assets today: the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot. We also attended to the GBPUSD and of course the USOILSPOT, where we were able to identify simple setups using simple parameters such as trend lines, key levels and chart patterns to strategically position ourselves ahead of today's New York and London sessions. So let's see what is going to happen today. And for those who are joining us for the first time, I do hope you are able to gain one or two things with us this morning. And in fact, I encourage you to be part of our subsequent editions, as the more time you spend with us, the better you get in understanding how this works and eventually be able to use the information you gather here to make your own independent trading decisions. So I look forward to seeing more of you next week, Monday. And of course, don't forget that today is the last trading day of the week, so I will be preparing my plans for next week. So stay tuned, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please, I encourage you to do, so that you can get notified when I have new ideas and commentaries to share with you. If you have found this content helpful and useful in making your independent trading decision, I really will appreciate you to support the project by giving the video a thumbs up. Your likes are valuable to me, and in fact, it also helps the algorithm promote the video to a wider audience of traders who may find this content beneficial to them too. Thank you in advance for doing so, and for those who had already clicked the like button, thank you very, very much. I really do appreciate your support. And it's on this note, I wish you all the best of luck today, and I look forward to seeing you right in the comment section of both my TradingView, Telegram, and of course on the XAUUSD live window as we continue to monitor price action. Do have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye bye.